Hey everyone, welcome back to In Her Shoes. I am your host, Lynn Adams. Today we are talking all about flipping the script on your success. So this woman that I'm about to bring on, she is so incredible. I'm gonna bring her on here. Let's see. Here she comes. We're gonna give it a second. Let's see here. So excited to talk to this woman. She's amazing. And it's going to be a pretty transformational talk. And we're going to be talking all about wellness. Hey, Student Speaks, how are you? Hi, everyone, for joining. Where are you guys from? Where are you tuning in from? Where in the world are you? We're just waiting to connect for her, let's see here. She is coming on it's still waiting for her to connect. So I'm really excited to talk to this woman. We're talking all about how to flip the script on success. And this woman has a wealth of knowledge. She is powerful. Her story is powerful. I'm so excited to bring her on and for her to really teach you just some of the nuggets that she has been through. So, okay, unable to join. Let's see. Let's bring her on again. I'm going to try it again. Here we go. Let's see here. Anniedi,
Hello,
yes!
Kenneth.
How are you?
Wonderful. How are you doing?
Good. I'm doing so good. So this is Anniedi. She is powerful. You have such a transformational story. And just the work that you're doing in this world is so incredible and so needed. I think especially now with the pandemic coming in. And so you founded a company. It's called Edem Spark. Yes. And so I would love for you to share your story, share your transformation. I know your mom was a big part of your story and your motivation. And I also want to just, this topic's called flipping the script to success. But I think you're going to weave so many nuggets and gems into this that will really take it wherever you want to go, whatever is going to serve. So please tell everyone watching live or the replay, how was your journey? How'd you get started? A little bit about you.
Absolutely. So hello, everyone, and good evening. And thank you so much, Kelly, for having me today. I'm thrilled to be joining you for this important and timely conversation on how to flip the script on our success. My name is Anniedi Essien, and I am the Chief Swagger Officer at Edem Spark, which is the wellness community for rockstar executives. And I often say, I haven't always had this swagger. Okay, I haven't always had my swagger.
Oh, come on now. I think you have.
we all have those seasons in life, right? Where we feel like our energy is depleted or we feel like we're not sort of playing at the top of our game, right? And I remember kind of being like always just someone who was super driven, right? Like academically, like at work, like just always sort of wanting to be the very best at what I did, and I talk about starting my career when I lost my mom to cancer, right? And really just thinking about like, how do we fix a broken health system? And so I'm on this climb, right? I'm climbing that corporate ladder. I'm killing it in the game while killing myself softly, okay? Mm-hmm. And I recognized that like I had been on this path, I had been on this mission to really live out my mom's legacy, but I hadn't really given much thought into like, what was my legacy going to be, right? And so I hit burnout, right? I hit burnout, and burnout looks different for everyone. But for me, what that looked like was these heart palpitations, right? Keeping me up late at night. I had this terrible knee pain, right? And then I think the one as women that we can all sort of relate to is the vanity, when vanity comes in, right? Because my hair started falling out in clumps, like by the handful. And so here I am sort of killing the game in the career, but like just really depleting my resources in terms of energy. And so, of course, but I just ignored that, right? I'm just thinking to myself, like, who has time for it? This is the moment where you sort of push through and power through, until one day I walked past my reflection in the mirror and I noticed that I had lost the sparkle in my eye. And so if you've ever, for the listeners who've ever been through grief or trauma or anything like that, you know how hard it can be to remember what lights you up again, right? So I ultimately ended up getting laid off from my dream job. Okay. So I get laid off from my dream job and I'm thinking, how do I actually design a dream life instead? Right now, I got to put all the pieces back together and figure out what sets my soul on fire. And so I went on this transformation journey, right? First, it was transforming my health, like putting together a dream team to really take control of my own personal wellness. And then once I had my energy and my swagger back, I was like, how do I really create a career around this, create a way in which I can help and guide other women who are going through similar transitions, right? So that they know that they too can really make a bigger impact in the world. And so that's what Edom Spark is all about. We do one-on-one executive coaching. We have a group program. We're about to roll out our new Swagger School initiative later on this month. And we also do corporate consulting services with organizations. So I'm all about helping folks find their swagger so they can lead a more healthy, wealthy, and fulfilling life.
Yeah. And so, I was looking at some of your testimonials and you've worked with some like really high powered executives and, just with COVID and everything going on, right? What would you say is the most common thing that you're either hearing like out in the world or maybe from past clients, current clients, or just the general public that is in your world? Like, what is some of the struggles that people are going through that you're seeing?
Yeah. So currently I'm actually in the process of doing a burnout study, with organizations to really look at what the impact of this pandemic has been on folks in the workplace. And what we're finding is that women, folks of color, right, have been impacted in a significant way. And it's a lot of kind of the usual suspects that you might think of, the blurring of lines between work and home, right? We all sort of have that dream, right, where we can have this quote unquote work-life balance. But what does that mean when your office is also your living room, is also, right, the place where you're homeschooling your children, right? And sort of thinking about that increased pressure and demand on all of us to do more with less, right? With less support, with less resources, right? And so that's been a heavy hitter. But then I think some of the things when we think about what wellness really means is breaking down that definition. A lot of times when people think about wellness, they think about physical health, right? They think about, I got to eat less and move more. We just, celebrated New Year, right? And all these folks are making their resolutions. But what about your mental well-being, right?
Yes.
What about your spiritual health, right? So all of these facets that we think about when we hear mind, body, spirit, but also things you might not typically consider. So researchers at Harvard School of Public Health studied this idea of human flourishing. And they looked at, the time we spend outside of a doctor's office that actually impacts our well-being. And what they found was things like career satisfaction, right? Our financial stability, the quality of our social connections and our close relationships, our meaningful purpose, our playful living. All of these facets, in addition to our mind, body, and spirit, right, impact our overall well-being. And so we're hearing mental health and spiritual. Yes, that's where we should start. Absolutely, right? So when you're thinking about overhauling your well-being, right, you don't have to look far to look in the pandemic for examples of how, right, we're socially isolated. We're not able to tap into a lot of the traditional support systems we would typically rely on. And so we've got to get creative. A lot of times people will say, well, I wish we could get back to normal. But I then ask the question, well, how well was normal serving you, right? How well was normal serving you? And what does it look like to create a new future, right? A new vision for the future that is more equitable, right? That is better for folks who have different needs and want to be able to juggle both their ambitions, but also their well-being.
I love that. So I guess, what would you say, because we're seeing it right on Clubhouse, like Clubhouse is blowing up because it's like the connection, yes, right? And the, yes, we can't all get together in, these events or these big forums or conferences, but people are craving the connection. They're craving the intimacy. And I think you made a huge point of like mental wellness, like spiritual wellness, all of that, I think it's all levels. What would you say to people that are maybe struggling, right, with the mental, or maybe, they're seeking connection, or maybe they're not eating right? Like, when you were at your lowest, like what helped you, or what made you shift, to kind of get you out of a funk?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kelly. I think for women, a lot of it is about thinking about rewriting the narratives, right? Because a lot of times as women, especially women in leadership, we define our worth based on our titles, our roles, our relationships to others, how we're serving others. And it feels counterintuitive to put ourselves on our own agenda, right? So I think the first step there is really thinking about, who am I, right? Who was the woman I was before, and who do I want to become? So I take my clients through a 3-step process. It's called Mind, Body, and Swagger, right? The first step is all about leveling up that mindset. The second piece is about embodying your goals. And the third piece is all about rocking your unique swagger. So let's hone in on that mindset piece, because that's, I think, to the point of the question you've asked, which is, you know, who was I before, and who do I want to become, and what needs to shift to get me from where I am to where I want to be? Right.
Yeah.
And so for me, that meant a lot of unlearning, right? There's a lot of, like, you know, you might call it mind trash that you have, which is, I got to do it all by myself. I can't ask for help, right? I've got to just continue to power through. And so you know, we start to challenge assumptions, and it's like, well, really, what does it look like for you to delegate? What does it look like for you to actually have a dream team around you that is supporting your growth and supporting your development? And so it really requires you to kind of think a little bit differently, right? About how you're operating, who you are, who you want to be in the world, and then how do you really architect, right, or choreograph the action plan to get from where you are to where you want to be. So that mindset piece is really powerful. But I think the other piece is sort of acknowledging how you're actually feeling. So a lot of times we're so used to numbing, we're so used to just ignoring some of our body's natural cues, right? Like, I'm hungry, but I'm not going to eat right now because I'm on a call. I'm tired, but I'm not going to rest. I'll just have some more coffee, right? So we're used to really silencing that inner voice that's really telling us, right, what we crave, what we desire. And then the last piece I would say is really honoring that, right? Understanding, now I've listened to what my voice is saying. How do I actually honor that? So it's like about shifting your paradigm, casting a new vision for the future, and then reimagining the path going forward now that you have a clear vision of where you want to be.
I love that. And what I'm hearing through everything that you're saying is like grace and ease, and like also not beating yourself up, you know, and because a lot of us, right, will kind of create from that default, you know, perspective because that's what we knew, right? And then also kind of like, I find myself too, like, oh, I'm not going to eat. I got to take this call, or I'm in the middle of a meeting, and not also like honoring ourselves. I love that you brought that point up, because we can get like tugged in so many different directions, you know, and it's just, and I like that, like bringing your swagger back and just like the grace and the ease that come along with it, you know, and not beating yourself up. That's huge, huge. So you've also created a community of like swagger women. Like, so tell us more a little bit about that. Hey, Rosie, tell us a little bit more about, because you're really, you know, for me, you know, when I look at you, it's like you're creating a momentum, like movement, right? To really, and it's so needed, especially today, you know, in just the well-beingness and the transformation, and so many people need help. So you've already started a movement. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I mean, I grew up, like, growing up, I grew up as one of many sisters, right? And so when you're surrounded by ambitious sisters, right, you can't help but want to raise your game, right? I often say the rising tide elevates all boats, right? And I think that a lot of times folks are used to being the first and the only, right? So I'm first gen. My parents came to the US from Nigeria. They came for their education. They settled and had a family. And so a lot of times when I was advancing in my career, I was doing things for the first time, right? I was the first one to be, right, creating a new and innovative product solution, or being on a team and representing for a client, right? Like, I might be the only one or the first one, right? Whether that's a woman or a person of color. And so it's kind of thinking about really creating a place where that becomes normalized, that like ambition, that drive, that excellence, that talent, right, becomes normalized. You start seeing folks around you, and then it makes you want to step up your game, right? Makes you want to step up your game and play at the top of the game. And so we've created a community where folks get to connect, right? There's a space for us to connect and learn, what does it mean to rock your unique swagger? So a lot of times, you know, you'll be on the gram, right? You'll be scrolling, you're comparing yourself, right?
Yes.
You're comparing yourself. Oh, well, what's, you know, going on over here? Or my life is not as good or better than, The thing is about rocking your unique swagger, right? So what are your unique gifts? What are your unique talents? What are your unique vision for your life? And then how are you going to create that? And so a lot of times it involves really tapping into the excellence and the swagger of others, right? So we're going to be rolling out a swagger school program in the coming months. It's all about really kind of 5 pillars of how to rock your unique swagger. The first is success. So it's redefining success on your own terms. The second is all about sisterhood. So learning and leveraging ambitious sisters that can help you soar to higher heights. The third is all about self-care, right? So how to prioritize your own wellness and well-being so you can thrive. The fourth is around sparkle, right? So what does it really mean to be lit up, you know, to go from being burnt out to on fire for your career and your wellness? And then finally, style. It's about rocking your unique swagger. So we have a professional stylist on our team that help you identify your unique swagger. So from a personal branding, from an authentic leadership perspective, it's really to put you all together, right? To help you really play at the top of your game, have your A game as you're looking to slay your bold, hairy, audacious goals.
Yes, I love it. And I love it because it's like when you feel better also, like sometimes, you know, I might be feeling like, but then I put like on a shirt, I'll still be in my yoga pants. I put some makeup and I'm like, yeah, like you just feel better, right?
Yes.
Like just to own your own authentic,
exactly.
You know, swagger. So yeah, so Boho Nuvo is going to check out your community, and I love what she says. Ambition was the mantra in our house, but lacked the love. And I think that's so true, right? In a lot of households, and even in relationships and friendships and family, right? And even in the society, like it's all about ambition.
Yes.
And sometimes we don't take a pause and stop, and it's like, well, from what place am I doing this in? Like the love, because that's kind of how you burnt out too, right? You were going.
Yeah, because I think that, you know, I had a very specific idea of what success meant, right? And it was all sort of centered around work. And then when I got laid off, I realized I didn't have any hobbies. I mean, I didn't have any hobbies to choose from. I had lost touch with my friends, right? Because I'd been so on my grind and sort of climbing that ladder. And I had neglected my health, really, right? And so when I started thinking about, okay, yes, I had my dream job, but what does it look like to design a dream life? And for me, that involves work-life harmony, right? A lot of times people talk about work-life balance, which I feel like is an elusive thing. I think prioritization is really the key, right? The building blocks to work-life harmony, which is saying what matters most to me, right? So part of that involves shedding the shoulds. So not what other people think I should aspire to, whether that's family, society, culture, right? But really thinking about, no, what do I want? What matters most to me? And then how do I measure that? How do I prioritize that? And then how do I put that on the agenda and quiet a lot of the other noise, right? So it's really powerful to kind of make that internal shift.
I love that, the whole shedding of the shoulds, because you know I catch myself in like shitting on myself all the time, and then also measuring up to like society's patriarchal programming and all of that stuff that, you know, we are programmed, you know, from, like you said, on Instagram, like the pretty pictures and the like, oh my, it's exhausting to live up to society's standards and all these, it's just exhausting. So I love that, the redefining of success and like shedding those shoulds. That's so powerful. So powerful. So what would you tell people, you know, if they are kind of like wanting to get that swagger back? What helped you? I mean, because I know you had a transformation of losing some weight. Like, did you do all the things not all the things at once, but like, did you focus on one thing? And then when you found success in one area, did you go to the next? Or tell me a little bit more about that journey for you.
Yeah, so I would say, like, growing up, I never considered myself an athlete. I mean, I was like not, you know, I was always sort of like the biggest kid on the playing field. So I was used to coming in last. And I remember my dad, he wrote a memoir where he's talking about his like coming to the US and like the American dream. And like he wrote, Anniedi doesn't like sports, right? And I'm like, why did he write that? Like, I was like, was it sports that I didn't like, or was it not being allowed to play in the game? Right? That really not a good look for me. So I really thought about that as I was older, as reflecting on that moment and saying, no, what would it look like if I were to like train like my life depended on it? Because at that time it really did. And so I put all of my energy into sort of really figuring out how to re-energize myself, right? So instead of really looking at the exercise as like, I'm doing this as a punishment or trying to lose weight, I wanted to become stronger, right? Because I wanted to keep running my race. I needed more energy, right? To go after my ambitions. And so it really was a process of just nourishing my soul, right? Figuring out like, what was it that I was really hungry for? And then what did I need? I also had to ask for help, right? So I started working with a personal trainer. I worked with a dietitian. I worked with a nurse to really understand like, where were their deficits, right? Whether it's like getting my annual physical, figuring out like, were there nutrient deficiencies, right? So I think a lot of times we want to go to that quick fix and think about, oh, I'm going to do something really restrictive. But no, what does it look like to come at it from a place of abundance, right? What does my body need more of, right? What does my body need more of? And then honoring that. So I think once I sort of got my swag back in that way, then I started looking at other areas of life and started detoxing my life, right? Like I was like, is this relationship serving me anymore, right? Is it shallow, right? Even about career, like it's not enough to be just checking the boxes anymore. Like I want to do work, right, that really helps me make a bigger impact, right? And so I think that when you start that process of pouring into yourself as a woman, of investing in yourself as a woman, it then starts extending into other areas, right? It gives you more courage, gives you more confidence. I call it evidence-based confidence, really. Evidence-based confidence, because I was able to slay that burpee. I didn't know I could do a burpee, but once I did, I was like, you know what? I could do a burpee. I can launch my own business. Okay. It's going to be hard. I may fall on my face, right? But I'm going to go for it because I know what it felt like to succeed, So that's really, I think, what happens. It starts to really affect every other area. And now as I'm coaching women who are going through transition, right, I see that similar thing. You can literally tell the moment where that sparkle comes back, and then you see them start going after it in all other areas. It's very exciting.
That's beautiful. So we have a question. So how do you not stay too attached to your dream job? I find it hard because I put everything at work and neglect building my personal life. So any kind of advice there?
So good. So good. So I think the whole thing there is figuring out, like, when you envision your dream life, right? Like, who are the people that you want to be, right, around you, right? It's figuring that out, right? Some of those people are going to be folks in your team. They're going to be family members. They're going to be friends. It's like figuring out how you create a new way of being, right? So when you're so used to like working on your dream job, you can easily fall down that, what I call myself, a workaholic path, right? Where I just was kind of all consumed by it, right? But I think that what ends up happening is that you lack the creativity, right? You lack the energy, you lack the really focus because you're depleted. And so it's figuring out, not just waiting for that vacation or waiting for that holiday to create and carve out those restorative moments, but finding a way to bake that into every day, every week, right? So it becomes more of a new routine, a new tradition that you're creating, right? So a lot of times you got to like unlearn old routines. We're actually in a perfect time right now in the middle of the pandemic, I hate to say, but because so many of our routines have been shaken up, we get to actually create a new. So I would definitely challenge you to say, what are some new routines I can create in this time? And then which of these do I want to carry into the future?
That's beautiful. Yeah. And I mean, this time, right, it's, there's so many ways you can look at this time, right, as an opportunity, as a blessing, or some people look at it as a curse. I always tend to say, okay, what is this opportunity teaching me? What is this showing me? And, it's unveiling a lot of things, right? It's what's important to people. It's reassessing. It's all of that. So a lot of bonuses, right? A lot of bonuses with COVID. So good. I'm glad that served you, Rosie. So what else do you think, what else do you want to share that you think people would need to know, like in this moment?
Yeah, I mean, I work with a lot of folks who are in transition. So I have a client right now who has a full-time 9 to 5, right? You could call it a soul-sucking job, right? So it's like really figuring out she's got this side hustle, right? That's sort of setting her soul on fire, makes her soul sing. But it's sometimes the way we see ourselves is shaped by the way others see us, right? And
Yes.
so for her, the big aha moment was when we prepared for her to negotiate for her raise this year, right? And so like she was like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna stay. Should I bother pushing? But it's like that exercise of advocating for yourself, that exercise of actually asking for what it is, that exercise of actually defining your worth on your own terms, then extends into other areas, right? That builds
Yes.
up that evidence-based confidence or that swagger. So once she got through that negotiation, right? We prepared for her negotiation. She got the raise. And then she decided to look at her side hustle, right? She revamped her offerings. She created a new VIP offering that was a higher ticket offer, right? And then she made from after, having crickets, she went to making 3 sales in a single day. So I always say to folks, if you're sort of wondering, do I have what it takes, right, to succeed? Do I want to bet on myself and go all in? Figure out what's one small step I can take today, right? It doesn't have to be the whole big, right, mountain that you're climbing, but what's one hill I can climb today, right? To think about how do I get one step closer to my goals. And what you find is that when you really give yourself that courage, when you really embrace that confidence and you make the commitment in yourself, you start to see that, you start to really rock that swagger in more ways than one. So I would definitely encourage folks to bet on themselves and go all in for sure.
I love that. And I love that you said like one small like action step and
Yeah.
like because it's the commitment to oneself. And I know like so many people have these big visions and these big goals for 2021 or the first 90 days. And it's like, and that can sometimes overwhelm us.
Yes.
It can land us into perfectionism and
There you go.
procrastination, right? It's like, no, like honing down, like, because that can be overwhelming, right? Like people have these huge, big visions, what they want to do. And it's like, okay, reverse engineer, like what is the next, so I love that you said that. What is the right next step, the small action that you can take, because it builds confidence, right? It builds your swagger.
It does. And I think so many times, we hear this word imposter syndrome, right? We hear,
Yeah.
the dreaded imposter syndrome. I would argue, why not stop being a counterfeit version of yourself, right? Rather than thinking about who you are supposed to be and how you're supposed to be as a leader, right? Thinking about what feels authentic to you, right? Creating your own swagger in a way. So I really help folks really tap into, right, their unique strength, their unique gifts, right? And able to really own it, own their fabulosity in a way, right? So that they're able to create a path where there may not have been one before, for sure.
I love that. Okay, so we're taking this at the after party.
We're
Okay,
going
this
on
is
the after party.
I'm going to we're going to Clubhouse for the after party, but and it's so fun because I'm like, let's do the after party. What do you want to leave folks with? And then also I want to, well, first tell us kind of what you have coming up. Like, are you launching something right in the next kind of few days? Or if someone's watching the replay like months later, tell us kind of how they can connect with you too. Like obviously your Instagram profile, but
Absolutely. So if you are looking to flip the script on your success, you are welcome to participate in my Career Swagger program. So I open up a few spots each month. You're welcome to join the Career Swagger program. As I mentioned, our Swagger School program is coming up, probably in the next few weeks. So we'll be announcing here on Instagram. You can find us at IDEM Spark. That's IDEM Spark, IDEM Spark, or you can visit our website and join our mailing list at edemsparklife.com. That's idemsparklife.com, idemsparklife.com. So that's where you can find out more information. But the parting words that I would leave are really our mantra, right? Which is life is a song. Your body is your instrument. Play it like no one's watching, right? So what would you do, right? If you didn't worry about what other people thought success meant, right? If you really honored what you really were going after from your own inner ambitions, right? How would you play at the top of your game? So that's what I would leave folks with.
Yes! Yes. Oh my gosh. You killed this interview, my love. I love you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. This is why, I just bring on powerful people. Like that is just the bottom line. So I love this conversation. And I always tell people at the end, like, watch it again, because you don't know what, you hear it a different way. You might pick up on something that, you know, you said, right? Like it hit, like, I know me, it'll hit a different way. I'll listen to something and be like, oh, it resonates here. So I always like to tell people, you know, rewatch this, like maybe at least 2, 3, they usually say 7, 8 times. But really, because you might get a golden nugget that one day be like, oh yeah, that's exactly what she said and meant. Absolutely. So I just want to thank you for your time and your energy. And then now we're going to head over to Clubhouse.
Yeah.
So if you want the actual interactions and ask you questions, like that's what I love, because you can interact through Instagram, but like with Clubhouse, you can get on the phone, like in a room with you. So we're going to head over to Clubhouse now. So bring your questions, everyone. And if you're on Clubhouse, we want to see you. And we're going to start literally in like 2 minutes. So, all right. So I will see you over there. And thank you so much for your time, your energy, and all the wisdom and the gems that you dropped. So helpful. And we'll leave the link too below after I post this video. So
wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, Kelly. And I'm looking forward to the after party on Clubhouse.
Yes. All right. See you soon.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.